make your way up here.
It's not about air, it's about air. Oh, yeah. Say that.
Short answers. Appreciate it. You can talk as much as you want.
I'm gonna get fired already. All right, bro.
Yeah, we're just one way.
Oh, yeah.
Controversial.
Hold on, I'm trying to find that.
Test. All right, we are back, and I'm joined by some bros who are going to respond to questions, have some good interaction with the audience, and basically, I got the easy part. I just get to ask some questions. So what I'm going to have them do is a brief 2-minute intro, just their name, organization, and their connection with counselors. Go ahead.
Start with me.
Yes, sir.
Controversial. So my name's Corey Wilkerson. I don't represent an organization, but being a black man, honestly, right? And I think the thing for me is I'm a father of 2. My daughter will be 21 in August. My son will be 18 in November. He's going into his senior year of high school, and she's in her junior year of college. So that comes with its own challenges, right? And I think that's enough for me to be here, right? You know, we're all under Dr. Kirby's care, not sure. Not sure. But again, you know, I think that, you know, I've done a couple of podcasts, a bit of part of the Rebirth. You know, Shay thought it was good for me to be here. So, you know, I thank you all and I appreciate it. So I'll hand it off.
All right. Thank you, Corey. My name is Robert Lewis. I'm senior pastor of Transformation Christian Worship Center, located in Bear, Delaware. I'm here. My connection is also with the Rebirth, Shay Marriott, and also Eli, who was on the panel here. I was on their show and also part of the previous panel, and they thought it would be great for me to be a part of this panel as well. My experience is I am a certified Christian counselor. I have experience, if you didn't recognize or realize it, I have experience in being a black man. And it's surprising. So, and also counseling black men as well in terms of the different challenges and issues that they face in their relationships as well as individually in society.
My name is Eli, and due to a current warrant that I have, I won't be giving my last name.
Oh my God.
No, I'm kidding. My name is Eli Isabell, and I've been in mental health for over 25 years. I currently work for Women to the Head Start. That's my day job. So I deal with the babies. My evening job, I deal with all teenage boys for a program called Seed of Hope. We do community-based counseling. And I'm a part of a podcast called The Rebirth, as these gentlemen mentioned. We focus a lot on mental health and just highlighting awesome Black people who are doing great things in the community. So if you have something great going on, let me know. We can talk today and maybe we can get you on.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gregory Snead. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm here on behalf of my mental health practice. I recently started a private practice geared towards, similar to Dr. Kirby, men ages 10 to 60. I really like to teach men and young boys to open up, communicate with their wife, the feelings behind the emotions. And I like to help everyone identify positive affirmations that they can live by on a day-to-day basis.
Whoop, whoop. Go, Greg.
Hang on to the mic. We're going to start the question. So basically, jump in as you feel. This first question: what is the biggest misconception about Black men? The biggest misconception about Black men?
That we're not good fathers. We're not present. I think, in my opinion, I hear that probably more than anything, and that is a myth. I am 1% in with my two girls, 24 and just recently 16. Now driving, looking for a Tesla. But yeah, definitely. I can speak for me. All of my friends that I like, my core friend group, all great dads, all involved and married, and just being a part of their kids' lives. So I think that is in my mind, that's a myth. They're bad fathers in every race.
Yeah, I agree with Eli. I think for us, the biggest misconception of us is that we don't know how to be emotional, that we don't have feelings, to be honest with you, right? I think somebody talked about it earlier, shouted it out. I think that we don't have feelings and that we're always have this tough persona. And that's just quite the opposite, to be honest with you. I think that we do have feelings. I know you touched it, in fact, that asked the question to Dr. Kirby earlier, what does a strong Black man look like, right? And I think that where you find his vulnerabilities, where you find the strong Black man, right? And that's the answer. And I think to his point, the relationships that surround you will bring that out. Whether that be your mom, whether that be your relationship, whether that be with your kids, you find his vulnerability where you see it at, and that's where you create the strength.
Also, I think that I agree totally with what Eli said. I think that's the biggest one. I think another one that probably runs a close second, in my opinion, is that we can't have healthy relationships with women. And I hear a lot of time from Black women is there's no good men out here, no good Black men out here. When the reality is, I'm saying, well, where are you looking? So it really depends upon where you're looking, who you're connecting to. But I think that is a huge misconception, because you have a lot of Black men who want to have monogamous relationships, meaningful monogamous relationships, but they may not feel as though they can be vulnerable, that they can, because one of the things that Dr. Kirby pointed out is in the Black community, men are felt or made to feel as though they cannot express their feelings, or they cannot be vulnerable, that they cannot cry, and therefore if they can't wear this tough exterior all of the time, then over the course of time, then that relationship is going to disintegrate. It's going to just, fall away, because they cannot be who they really are in the relationship. And I think that that's a misconception that, one, we don't want to be in monogamous relationships, and two, there aren't any good ones out here.
I would say the biggest misconception is that we're all the same. I think all of us show up differently. Like, you can look at the panel, we have different hairstyles. We're all wearing brown shoes, but they're all different. They're all different types of brown shoes. I think Black men, Black in particular, come in different flavors, different colors, different concepts. So I don't think we all fit one mold. I think we can show up in the world however we're most comfortable, and that's how we're gonna make a difference.
Cool stuff. Second question. How has racial trauma impacted your sense of self and your relationships? So how has racial trauma impacted your sense of self and your relationships?
I think just the media and just everyday being a Black man living in this world. I'll give you an example. Last summer, I was pulled over having a cell phone. Bluetooth was there, so I was on my phone. I got pulled over. Now I know I don't have, contrary to what I said, I don't have any warrants. I don't have any drugs in the car. My license and insurance, everything is current and up to date. but still I felt the sense of something could happen. I'm not about to give this guy a problem out here on the highway. I don't need no memorial of me on 3rd Street with flowers and beer bottles. I'm not dying right here today. But still, I felt like there was something could happen, even though I'm going to do everything that I'm supposed to do. I gave him all of my information. I was respectful, and he was awesome to his credit. But it didn't alleviate that sense of anxiety that I had upon those lights being behind me. You know what I mean? So when you say impact relationships with our mates or just in general, who are you referring to?
Actually, I like that example of the public. I would say just in general, so we're not really narrowing it down. So that was a good example of the relationship with society as opposed to someone close to us. So from a societal perspective.
I think outside of just being a black man, period, I think there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. There's a level of responsibility that you have personally and professionally. I remember one of the first I got promoted in my job, and I remember I had a mentor, and I walked into his office, another black guy. He said, "Hey, how you doing, boy? Everything good?" "Everything's good." And the first conversation he had with me was my responsibility as a black man being promoted in a company. Right? The first conversation. Right? I walked out of the office, I go to my car, this young lady, she was black, she's young. She stopped me and she says, "You know, I watched you walk through this office, and I wanted to know, I read the announcement, you got promoted and all that, but I wanted to tell you how proud I am to sit behind this desk and watch you walk through this office," right? And granted, she had to be, I think she was about 67 years old. But to hear her tell me that was a level of responsibility and a level of what I would call pressure, right? And I think the outside of that, I was just having this conversation with one of my friends the other day, and I said, I've been lucky enough in my 41 years that I haven't experienced it so directly to myself. But what I will say, over the last 5 to 6 years, I feel like it's shifting, right? I feel like it's shifting, whether you look at the social injustice, whether you look at the things that are going on in the government, whether you look at the things that go on in the news. It's starting to shift a little bit, right? And then that pressure is starting to come, not only hitting my generation, but also my son's generation and my daughter's generation. It's impacting your relationship with your colleagues. So I think it's shifting, and I think that we have to be sensitive to what that means for us as a community. Black, white, doesn't matter, right? We have to be sensitive, we have to stand strong inside of that. So I think that's when I've experienced it, just on my behalf.
When I was a child, and I grew up in Philadelphia, just like Dr. Kirby did, but I grew up during the time, and I don't know if you remember this, Dr. Kirby, I don't know what peer group you're in, if we're in the same peer group or not, but I grew up in an era of Frank Rizzo in Philadelphia. Yes, you know what I'm talking about. So, and I grew up in an area of the city called Mount Airy. When I moved in Mount Airy as a kid, it was 1969, 1970. I hear some of y'all trying to calculate how old I am. So it was during that time, I'm 4 or 5 years old in that neighborhood, predominantly white at the time. Dr. Kirby talked about going to other neighborhoods and being chased out of those neighborhoods because of, him not looking like them. Well, I'm being chased in my neighborhood. So, and I experienced things during that time as a child that I know now as being trauma. I didn't know it as being trauma at that time because it was just the way it was. And you start accepting it as you become older as being just the way it was. I even remember going through a time, and I'm gonna be transparent in that, I even went to my grandmother one time who was from the South, and I'm telling her, I wish I was white. Because if I was white, then I wouldn't have to deal with all of the stuff that I'm dealing with. So as I got older, I moved beyond that, but it impacted the relationships that I had with those that didn't look like me. So now you're more guarded. Now you don't want to open up as much. Now you feel as though you're being judged not based on the person that you are, but how you look. And in dealing with that, I understood the difference. I experienced the difference in someone who wanted to be around me and someone who just tolerated me. So when you hear people talk about, well, you're pulling the race, I don't pull the race card on everything because I don't believe that everything is racism. And I don't believe that every single white person is racist. But believe me when I tell you, if you hear me say, there's something going on with them, I have a strong sense, based on my experience, that that person more than likely may be that way. So I really had to work through that trauma and then really understand that everyone is not that way, that everyone is not looking to get you, but you still in the back of your mind have this guard up and like, okay, well, if it happens, I won't be surprised because that's just the way that it has been. So, you know, police brutality, all of those things were going on during the time of me growing up in Philly. So in me seeing it now, it's not a matter of it became this way. It's just that we have technology that is exposing what has always been. So, you know, in dealing with those things, that I understand as being trauma, I had to work through those items. Now, I thank God that I'm no longer where I used to be because I have great relationships with everyone. But that's some of how the trauma really impacted me that I had to deal with growing up and had to work through in my relationships with others that didn't look like me.
To piggyback off what the bishop said, I think it's extremely important to make sure we work through those traumas, right? Because a lot of times, like growing up, I remember hearing my grandfather was a Vietnam vet and how he was treated in Vietnam or after Vietnam, or my great grandmother, how they were treated, things they experienced. So then the touch base on like the mistrust, sometimes we mistrust these officials because of things other people went through and the experience that we had. So it's extremely important to realize, to try to work through those traumas and realize we belong in the rooms, whether it's the room on Wall Street or it's the room in the hospital, it's whatever office, whatever building it is, we belong there. It doesn't matter what our fathers went through, our grandfathers, we belong in those places.
That's powerful. Those responses were powerful. I mean, yeah, let's leave it at that. The next question. Do you believe, as a black man, obviously, do you believe in therapy? Okay, for yourself. Not for my uncle. So do you believe in therapy for yourself?
I'll be completely honest, and I was telling someone the other day, me and my son's godfather, we went to college together, we went to high school together, we worked at our first job together, right? And I remember coming up, I was coming from work when we were in college, and he was coming out of a mental health building. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, man, what are you doing, right? And he's telling me he's having issues concentrating, focusing. I'm like, man, we don't go through that. You're not experiencing that, right? You wait till your junior year to go through that. So I felt really bad, like looking back on how I treated him and how I treated his mental health experience. But I definitely believe in counseling. I feel like counseling is a non-biased, non-judgmental opinion, and the most important part is you're following up weekly on that thing. Right? If you're having an issue, we'll talk about it this week, we'll talk about it 2 weeks later, we're measuring your progress. And I think counseling is a safe space for everyone to open up, express their feelings. So I definitely believe in counseling.
Yeah, I think it's vital to, if you're going through something, I think it's definitely vital to your evolution, to your growth. Like, how do you become better? Not only for you, but counseling makes you better for your children, for your wife, for your mother, or whoever the people you interact with daily. So absolutely, as a person who is in the field, I do believe, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Counseling is great. You know, I think it's one of the places that you go to be vulnerable. You go to have somebody that's non-biased, that has no real, they don't gain anything but your growth, right? And I think that's a place that we all should go, because I think we all have traumas and things that we've experienced, whether we're more alike than we are different, to be honest with you. And those services are there for a reason, you know, and I think, you know, in the first presentation when the doctor was speaking, you know, the reason why I asked that question, because I think we have to separate what we deemed before as crazy or what we deemed before as an issue. And you have to separate what mental health is and when you just need support, right? And if you can merge those two together, then I think we break down that stigma. So, you know, I definitely agree with what that looks like. And the best thing that we can do is to continue to encourage folks to do that. And it starts from our kids to us, to even people above us. Because do they have the tools? You think about your mothers and grandmothers and things like that. That trauma didn't necessarily start with us, So how do we give them the tools to do and counsel us and be better humans for themselves at their age, right? So yes, I think it's super good.
Oh yes, I agree with what everyone said. I am a strong advocate for therapy and counseling. There was one time where I was a strong advocate for counseling and therapy for everyone else but me. But I think that, everyone else was crazy, I wasn't. And I know that that's a taboo word. When you hear me say that, I'm talking about me. I'm talking about me. I went through therapy. I had therapy sessions. It's something that I would not have a challenge or issue going back to. I felt as though it was something that I needed. Initially, I went because I don't know if I had an aversion of going because my wife was telling me to go, or if it was a stigma thing. It might have been both. So she was saying, you need to talk to someone, you need to talk to someone, you need to talk to someone. And I'm like, I'm good. That hard exterior thing, I'm good. I'll handle this thing on my own. But once I went, it was nothing like I thought it was going to be. As a matter of fact, it was eye-opening. It revealed some things that I had. It allowed me to reveal some things, talk through some things so that I could hear myself. And there were certain things that I was hearing me say where I'm like, that's not right. And it was eye-opening for me. Actually, I think it's something that everyone should do at least once. Everyone, because I think that there's some things, just like I told you, there were some things I experienced that I now know as trauma that I didn't know was trauma back then. And you may have experienced some things that are really impeding your progress, impeding your growth in your relationships, and you have no idea that it may be as a result of some trauma that you just think is, well, that's the way it was supposed to be. So yes, I'm definitely an advocate for therapy and counseling.
All right. Thanks for that. This one isn't off your script, so make y'all think. So, Black families are sometimes typecast as single-parent homes, not strong, not bonded. What do you want the audience to know about a strong Black family? So share what the audience needs to know, what constitutes what you know about a strong Black family.
I guess I got to I think that what I would say about a strong Black family is that, we're dope. Right? I think that's where, when you think about culture and you think about, the fact that we're able to just influence so much, right? You think about whether it's hip hop, whether it's movies, music, style, right? I think that we are all of those things. And I think that we have an opportunity to showcase that a little bit differently and more. To the point made earlier, we're not just one thing, right? I think we're all things. And I think that, we love to be us. We're comfortable being us, to be honest with you. We identify with some of those things. We were talking about, just TV, right? This writer strike is going on, everybody's talking about, right? So I'm a fan of just watching old shows anyway. So I'll watch the Cosby Show in a minute, right? To look at the evolution of what the Black family is depicted to be like, whether you go to Good Times, whether you look at the Cosby Show, or what it looks like today, with this Blackish or any of those things, look how we've evolved just over time and the things that we've been able to accomplish. And I think, for me, I love it, right? And I get to walk out of my room and see my son in one door, my daughter in the next, right? And just how they're evolving and how they're showing up, and it's just something to love and showcase. So, for me, we're dope.
I'm gonna say, just for me, is when a man and woman working together in the home to sustain it. And I've said this on one of our shows before, when I walk in my house and I hear music playing and I smell food and my family's around, I smell food cooking. Like, to me, that's love. That's the strength of my woman taking care of our family. And this is not sexist, please don't take it that way, but this is one of her strengths. And how, this is one of her strengths and how she shows how she takes care of our family. She makes sure we're fed and well nourished. And me now doing my part, whether it be the lawn, or whether it be washing the cars, whether it be and then getting our extended family together and having cookouts and everybody's getting along and we're just having a great time. To me, that's the strength of, that's a sign of a strong Black family to me. Just love and understanding and togetherness.
We were talking about this briefly at the table earlier before Dr. Kirby and got up to do his presentation. Strong Black family to me would be, now, I understand that we have different types of families. So we have what I would call the traditional family. Boy meets girl, boy and girl get married, they have kids, they stay together. You have the blended family. Boy meets girl, boy and girl don't like each other, they separate, they have kids, and they get remarried, and now you have another family structure. And then you have situations where you have single parent homes. So when you take a look at the Black family dynamic, I think that the most successful Black family dynamic is the one where you have the two-parent household, whether that be traditional or blended family. When you take a look at statistics in terms of what those families or those structures produce, you have single-family homes that really participate in populating the prisons overall, and we're talking about Black community. So for me, the successful household, whether it's any of those traditional, blended, single family, is when you have everyone working together in terms of what is the best benefit for everyone involved. So if you are a single parent and you're a single parent and you're a woman, then don't allow your personal feelings regarding the father to stop you from effectively co-parenting with that father, because that father is needed in that child's life. Yes, they need you, but they also need the father. And if it happens to be an anomaly in which the father has the child, then you need to effectively co-parent. The more people that child has in their lives that love them, the better it is for everyone involved. So for me, the successful Black family is when you have a group of people, whether it's traditional, blended, otherwise, that are working together in concert for what is in the best interest of everyone involved, and they're putting their selfish agendas to the side, their personal feelings, what they feel about everyone else, because this is what's best for the entire unit. And when I came up, and then the time or era in which I came up, I was explaining, I couldn't just, my parents aren't home, I couldn't just get away with acting off the chain if the neighbors saw me. Because then the neighbors, watch this, they had the ability to come out and check me. And then when they came out and checked me, then they told my mom and dad when they came home. Well, you try checking someone's kid nowadays. The kid could be dead wrong, and now the parent is going to come and jump all over you because you were looking out for them. So to me, when you hear that old proverb, it takes a village to raise a child, to me, having that type of community is a successful Black family.
I like going after the bishop because I don't have to say much. But I think the most important part of is the village, right? Whether the village is extended family, blended family, right? Everybody working together, being on the same accord to progress the next generation. I feel like that's what life is all about, making the next generation better than the generation before. That's an important part of family.
All right, bros. Do you believe a Black man's childhood plays a large role in their mental health as adults? So do you think a Black man's childhood plays a big role in their mental health as an adult?
Yes, I definitely do. I think it plays a role in them seeking help and them trying to, address their mental health issues. It plays a role in the way that they look at mental health, and the way they experience the things that they're going through, the way that they interpret the world. I feel like it's very important, going back to the family, to make sure the family's involved, to educate properly on mental health, to be a part. Like sometimes with therapy, I get a parent who just wants to drop the kid off and go sit in the car or go walk around the block, right? The family, I feel like, has to participate in that therapy session as well. Like everyone has to be invested in it to ensure the success of the child.
Yes, I definitely agree. I think it starts even in the womb. The trauma can begin there with whatever your mother's going through. Whether somebody's on drugs and alcohol, like it can start before you even take your first breath. So does it play a role? Absolutely. And the home you're raised in. I know some people who were raised on survival. Some of us are raised on love. We got hugs and kisses. This all manifests itself as an adult in your adult life and how you interact with people, your ability to maintain relationships, whether it be friendships or relationships with a mate. Those things are all a part of that process. So it's definitely plays a key role.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the proverb says, raise a child in the way they should go. And when they get older, they won't depart from it. And that's there for a reason, right? And I think that you need to your point earlier about village and community, we need those things, right? As a child, you want to be nurtured. Those things don't leave you. Those things are in place for a reason. So yeah, I definitely believe that it's super important for sure.
I definitely agree with what everyone said. Everyone sitting here in this room is a sum total of their experiences and information they receive from people that they view as credible others. So our experiences play a huge role in the people that we become or the people that we're going to be. So, you know, it's very important, especially, you know, to the point that the gentlemen are making here, is that making sure that an environment or the family is cognizant of those things, so that, you know, you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on with the child early on, so those issues can be addressed early and they don't manifest themselves and mutate into something that's going to be a detriment later on.
All right, so next question, time to share. What does self-care look like to you? What does self-care look like to you?
Therapy. No, I think that's part of it, right? But that's part of it for sure. Because that's how you are able to connect with yourself, right? Outside of everybody else, and that's time that you need for yourself. But I would say your family is something that really resonates with me. Anytime that I get a chance to be with kids, or brothers, or sisters, or family, and food, you know, to Eli's point, is always great as well. But you know, for me, self-care is sometimes listening to music. Walks or, you know, conversations that, you know, allow me to learn and grow. Still, you know, always we're working on, you know, what does that look like for me without taking care of somebody else, right? Because sometimes you always consider somebody else first. So, you know, I think that's still a work in progress, is, you know, being selfish with you and making sure that you're building yourself up to be in a good place. But I think at the end of the day, for me, it would be family. And anytime you get a chance to just laugh, like, we laugh a lot of people, I don't know if we do. Everything's so serious, but you know, anytime that we get a chance to do that and connect like we're doing today is super important for me.
My self-care is very selfish. It doesn't involve my family, but to a lesser degree. So my self-care looks like some 90s R&B and some fine bourbon. Now, if it's a nice day, I'm on the deck. If it's raining, I'm in the garage. But that's my self-care, and I'm alone. My wife doesn't like to be outside, so I can just be alone with my bourbon and my R&B and my 90s R&B, and I'm cool, and I can do that for hours. So that's my self-care, and I like to ride my bike too.
Self-care for me is anything that I can lose myself doing, whether it's me running around with the kids or going to the gym, cutting the grass, whenever I can lock into my nothing box and think of nothing at all. That's self-care for me.
Yeah. Self-care for me is prayer, meditation, and connection. So I'm a pastor, so I should pray. And I do, and I meditate. And I'm very reflective in terms of I'm always looking to improve myself, always looking to become a better me. So I reflect on the different goals that I've set for myself, where I want myself to be. I also have connections. I have people that are close to me. I think this is very important. I have several people that I allow or have given permission to speak into my life. So you can't be my friend and not tell me the truth about me. So I have people that I can be honest with and open up to, but they also have the permission to be what some would view as being brutally honest. I need that kind of honesty because it's going to allow me to remain focused. is going to allow me to do those things that I need to do for me so that I can continue to stay in this vein of growth and development. Because what I recognize is how I go is how my household is going to go. So I have to make sure that I'm the best version of who I can be at all times, because if not, then I'm putting a lid on what my family is going to be able to do, how I'm going to be able to lead my wife, my children, etc. So it's prayer, meditation, and those that I connect with that I allow to speak into my life.
Hang on to the mic, Bishop. We were talking about this one at the table. What do you see as the role of Black men in disrupting the patriarch system to create more equity between genders? So what is the Black man's role in disrupting the patriarch system to create more equity between genders?
Okay, now I want to get specifics before I answer. So are we talking, do you want me to address it from a societal standpoint or from a household standpoint?
I would say household standpoint. I think that kind of hits the nail on the head. So because that's, of course, what you both would know better versus maybe from a societal perspective, if that's okay.
No, that's great. All right. So equity. When you hear the word equity, then for me, it would suggest that we're the same. And the reality is that we're not the same. Whether you want to agree or disagree, men and women are different. As a matter of fact, one of the greatest things I love about a woman is that she's not a dude. So pretty much, it makes sense, right? So that's one of the greatest things I love about a woman. So because we're different, then I don't know that there's necessarily going to be total equity within the household structure. Now, I'm a guy who's a traditionalist, or you may say I'm a traditional guy. I think that within the household and within the marriage, there are just certain roles. It doesn't mean that I won't do things that my wife does and vice versa, but I also believe that there are certain roles in which we play. Here's something that's gonna mess some of you women up. If my wife, check this out, if my wife makes more money than I do, it doesn't change the leadership structure in my home. Got a little quiet in this presentation. So no, it doesn't change. It doesn't change the structure because we understand that there's a particular order in which we operate within our home that allows it to be successful. I don't think that there. All right, let's talk about equity. Men are normally the ones who work the longer hours, who have the more dangerous jobs, who are the ones who take the most risk, and as a result, they're the ones that live shorter lives. Do you want to share in on that?
We already do.
No. As a single woman or as one who's in a relationship?
No, I didn't say anything. I don't want to do this.
Okay. All right. No. So what I'm saying is, statistically, I'm not saying there aren't some women who don't do it, but is that what you? Let me get how many? Show of hands. I want to show of hands. Women in here. How many women in here are in a heterosexual relationship and married? Okay. Here's my question to that demographic. Do you want to take on the responsibilities of your husband? No. So see, do you do? Yes, ma'am. No. I'm with you on that. You're not going to get any argument out of me on that. In that, if something goes lacking in an area and your husband is unable to perform, then yes, you would step up in that, just like vice versa. What I'm saying is that just generally speaking, general daily just living, do you want to take on that responsibility? And I think the answer of most women is no. Is no. I don't know that there's any woman who gets married in a heterosexual relationship who wants to take on that responsibility. I'm not saying that some of you have not been graced to take it on because you have to, but if you ask most women, they don't want to. So what I'm saying is that when you're talking about equity here, what exactly does that look like? What exactly are we looking to break up? Because I look at my wife has differences that I admire, and she brings certain things to the relationship that allow me to say, okay, look, I'm gonna put these things, she's gonna handle those things because she's best suited to do that. Then there's some things in which I may be best suited or well suited to do, and we do those things, and we come together collectively as a team to make it happen, but it doesn't always mean we're gonna be equal in everything. Does that make any sense? I'm not looking to make any enemies. I'm not looking to make any enemies, because I hear some of you, she was like, I ain't gonna do this. I think I struck a chord there, I don't know. I love you, sis, I love you.
So are you saying there's things that like you defer to your wife for and you let her take the lead on?
Oh, give me. See, I think that there's this misconception. Here's the deal. I am the head of household. That means I lead my household. I don't lord over my household. You got it? So my wife will come to me and say certain things. She'll make certain suggestions. Hey, I think we should do this, so forth and so on, blah, blah, blah. I'm okay, cool. That's what we're gonna do. Now, for the guys who have a problem with that, it was her idea, but I'm the one that made the decision. So if you have an ego problem, the reality is, let me say this. I was smart enough to marry her, right? Because your wife is a product of your intelligent decision. So I was smart enough to marry her, but I'm gonna be dumb enough to not listen to her? That's not a good leader. That's not good leadership. Although we have structure within our house, it doesn't mean, check this, doesn't mean she doesn't have a say. It doesn't mean she's not an equal partner in this, but when you talk about equity, it means that everything is being divided or divvied up in the same manner, and that just isn't so because we're different. So yes, I listen to my wife all of the time. And I'm a better person as a result. Our household, our marriage, and our family is the better as a result of that.
Yeah, I think I would just say that, I agree. I agree with what he was saying. I think for us is that the best way that we can do it as men is to identify each other's strengths, right? And it's simple as that, right? I think there's certain things that women are just really good at, right? And, when you walk in, whether that's professionally or personally, and I think that we have to do a better job of advocating for that in spaces that we're in, right? Because I don't think that we're your enemy. And I don't think that you're out. I think in some cases we're just fighting to be seen, right? And because we're fighting to be seen, whether it's in your family dynamic or whether it's in your professional dynamic, if we're able to work together, things will run better, right? But society says you have to make this, you have to be this, I have to be that. And at the end of the day, it just doesn't bear so, right? For better or for worse is a real thing, right? To death to us part is a real thing, right? So that doesn't change when you walk into your office, and it doesn't change when you walk into your house, right? Those things are foundational for a relationship, and I think sometimes we walk outside and we get influenced and we say things have to change. So if I recognize your strengths and you recognize mine, I think things will work well.
It's been a minute.
No worries. What do you see as the role of the black man in disrupting the patriarch system to create more equity between genders? And that's from the household perspective.
Okay, so I agree with most of the things that were said up here. I do from a perspective of, and I was more aligned thinking about financial. There's something that my lady wanted to do or be, and my job is to encourage that and help her realize that goal. And again, sometimes men, we have strengths that things that we should be taking care of, and ladies have strengths and things that they should be taking care of. But if it's something that's a goal for her and something she wants to obtain and it's going to make us better as a whole, then my job is to support that and push her forward. If that means I need to work less and be home and do more running around with the kid, then that's what we have to do. Whatever inspires and pushes her to be better, I think that creates equity within my house. I'll say that.
I completely agree with what everyone just said. I joke around and mess with my wife, right? We've been together for 7 years, we had a house of 5, right? She's never cut the grass. But like Bishop saying, I don't want her outside cutting the grass either, right?
Or take out the trash.
Or take out the trash, yeah, exactly, right? So But at the same time, I feel like I'm only as good as she's going to be, right? I feel like together she's able to push me, able to help me, and vice versa, and we can climb the charts or climb the, the mountain together and accomplish anything. So I feel like we're equal. But I agree with what Bishop said. Like there's certain things that as a man, like I don't want her to take on. I don't want her to have to do. But at the same time, me being a man and a leader, I gotta learn to play to her strengths. Whatever she's good at, whatever she's strong at, we don't even have to talk about it because that's your wheelhouse, right? That's what you do, and I'm behind whatever decisions you make or whatever you decide. I support it.
All right, this will be the last question, but it'll also give you the opportunity to inject what you want the audience to know. So this is the last question, but fortunately it'll also allow for you to give some insight from yourself to the audience. So what do you want us to know about the Black man? What do you want us to know about the Black man?
I want you to know that we're responsible, we're family oriented, we have careers, we're not all walking around with our pants hanging down. Just all the stereotypes that normally come along, things that I hear, even from other Black people. We're not those things. We're so much more than the things that we see in the media, and which is majority of the time negative connotations. We are lawyers, we're doctors, we're therapists, we're psychiatrists. Everybody isn't trying to make it to the NBA or the NFL. We're all of these things, and we're gentle, peaceful people.
Yes.
I mean, we ain't no killers, but don't push us. So I'll leave you with that.
What Eli said. One thing I will say, I think we're all things. We're a lot of things. The thing that I will, as opposed to answering the questions, I think these brothers will answer. The challenge that I will put out to the audience is to talk to us, and you will find out who we are. Yeah. Right. It would behoove us to sit here and not challenge a conversation to us as men and then to us as Black men. Right. So I think to answer that question, I think that there's a lot that we want you to know, but we want you to inquire as well. That's a great conversation to have at a table, to know who we are. And that's just not for people that don't look like us, that's for people that look exactly like us, right? Talk to us and we'll tell you. That's the answer.
I think what I want to leave is we're more interested in your support than your sympathy. We want you to be sympathetic to what we may have to deal with from a societal standpoint, as well as other personal challenges we may have. If you know us personally, that's great, but we're more interested in your support in helping us to work through those things. I think what Dr. Kirby pointed out was excellent in terms of, growing up as a young Black man, you have this hard, growing up, especially growing up in Philly, you have this hard exterior. My wife would tell you, it's like I'm two different people. I'm the same person, but there's a different face that I put on when I go out in public. It's sort of like when I'm at home, I'm relaxed and all of those things, but when I walk out the door, it's this exterior. And it's something that I have to work on, but it's something that's just been embedded in me because of the things and the challenges that we have to deal with, not just as a Black man, but just dealing with things as a man in general. So we're interested in you being sympathetic regarding what's going on, but also more interested in your support. And what I'm talking about is your husband is more interested in your support. Your coworker is more interested in your support. It's great that you see what they're going through, but think about what can you do to help support them in their plight, in the things that they are going through, so that one, they can become better. And it makes it easier for us when we know that we have people in our lives that truly understand and truly care, because I think in being a guy in general, I think about Mother's Day, that's coming up. So you think about Mother's Day, you got all these songs, and I'll always love my mama, she's my favorite girl, and Dear Sadie, and all of these great songs about moms, and what do men have? Papa was a Rolling Stone. So it's, it's all this love for the mothers, and I'm not hating, it's just that, we like to have some of that love too, and we want to have your support also.
when I think of the question, I think of something Dr. Dan was saying in his presentation about the hero of the physician have the hero mentality, that they can't have anything wrong with them. So I want to make sure that we let our black males know that they don't have to be the hero, they don't have to be the protector. Sometimes in my therapy sessions, right, a lot of men are holding things in because they don't want to put it on their wives, they don't want to put it on their mom, they don't want to put it on their friends, so they hold it in because they got to look good for everybody else. They got to be, they got to be the protector, their provider. So just give them a safe space where they can open up, just like the bishop said, where someone can give them not just criticism, but the support and the love, where they can let their guard down and they can relax and they can be a human being. So that's all.
And to the young lady in the back, yes, we do cry. And if you ever have a man that's comfortable enough and feel safe enough to share that emotion with you, you can't mess it up because he'll never do it again.
Right.
That's true.
And definitely be open to, like sometimes young ladies or wives or women that say, well, he doesn't talk, he doesn't open up, he doesn't speak. Give him that safe environment. When he does open up, talk, and speak, be receptive of what he's saying. Just don't dismiss it and throw it to the side as if his feelings don't matter or you don't really care, because that never happened again. So then that's when he shuts down and he doesn't want to talk at all. He won't speak about anything because he doesn't feel supported or heard.
No, really. No, my wife is trying to shut me down like she does in church. So no, here's what I want the women to know is that your husband, your man, he wants to share everything with you. He wants to share everything with you. The problem is for whatever reason, he feels as though he can't open up for fear of judgment. He's going to feel less than. He doesn't feel as though he can be vulnerable in expressing those things to you. So it's very important, as the brothers up here have been talking about, is when that happens, if you ever have that opportunity, even if he opens up and says some things that you don't like, you're going to have to treat that moment like gold. You're really going to have to think about how you respond and how you engage him at that moment, because that could be the catalyst for him opening up and sharing all of the things that you desire for him to share with you. But more importantly, in helping him, it's all of the things that he wants to share with you also.
Yeah, and I would just say this to the last point. I remember watching this thing with Jonathan Zing, and she was in the middle of Oprah when Oprah had her show, and the man was giving feedback. The woman asked him a question, and she started to challenge him. She stopped him and said, he's giving you information. So while it may be difficult to treat it like gold because you may be impacted by what he's saying to you, treat it like you're balancing his checkbook emotionally. Because if you don't, something's going to be off. And what you're putting in the bank, when you go get it out, when you need him to go do something for you, those funds are not going to be there emotionally. So let's look at it differently, is all I'm saying.
That's good.
All right. Outstanding example of black men giving insight. This to me speaks volumes of MHA and their ability to bring in folks that gives you a different perspective. Far too often, I and these brothers, we walk into a particular room and we are the only brother. So you have this opportunity to hear input from 4 strong brothers giving information. And as I always say, you may not remember everything someone says, but I know darn well there's some things that these cats said that are going to resonate with you. So please keep that in mind. And once again, round of applause for these cats. And thanks to MHA for this outstanding presentation.